Hello everyone. This video is called My Approach to Learning Rust. So this isn't how to learn Rust or crash course in Rust or Rust 101. This is how I do it and the state or the level which I'm currently at. So what you see on the screen is a mind map, and this is a site called mindmeister.com. What I've done is just mapped out the topics or the subjects which I'm currently using spaced repetition to learn. So you can see I've got, what was that, about 12, 13, 13, yeah. Um, Topics, subjects, whatever. And what I do is I regularly, without looking at the internet, without using ChatGPT, I regularly code these from scratch without any reference. So for instance, um, the read text or the write text, I'll just do cargo new, and then I will just create a string object or buffer, and then I'll just create, I'll just create a text file, and I'll read it, or I'll write it if I'm writing it, and I'll read it if I'm reading it. So the other thing is I've documented all of this as I've been going along, and if you want to look at what I've been learning as a mere mortal, I think that's probably the best approach. Is think, you know, there's many professionals out there who make videos and it all looks very easy and very structured. I think nobody who's sort of self-taught or having to learn as they go along, nobody does it that way. So you kind of get thrown in the deep end, and then you have to learn a certain thing to achieve a certain goal at a certain time, rather than just go from page 1 to page 250 in sequence. So for instance, closure as a struct member. So here's my code. My code was adjusted, shall we say, with a bit of help from ChatGPT. So um, the code is there, and you can see there's a screenshot of me running it in neovim, and it worked. So most of my pages there are Rust Playground links, and a shameless link to my web hosting, which is excellent. So give Webdock a try if you're looking for Linux web hosting. Um, right, so I've talked about my list of topics that I'm currently looking at or trying to recite, I think is probably the best word. So the thing is, although it's not a good idea to just memorize things verbatim, you do have to do that a little bit because, for instance, if you're learning a language, you're not going to just be fluent from day one. So you're going to need to memorize, for instance, like a phrase book. It would be, excuse me, how do I get to the train station? And over a period of time, you're going to be able to then modify that sentence from how do I get to the train station to how do I get to the swimming pool. So then you know that you can start to deconstruct that sentence. And much the same with code. Once you know a fixed block of code in your head, or you're able to type something from scratch, such as a builder pattern, then it's not a massive leap to go from being able to recite a example, say building a pizza builder example, which I've actually got on here, to jump from that to being able to do your own. Say you're making a game, and then rather than making a pizza with different toppings, you're making a monster with different weapons, for instance. So where did I most recently do any online learning? I've I use Tim Clicks and John Genset, but I would say probably the most useful in terms of being able to get the right level is Rust Programming Essentials. If you've got access to Pearson, then you will be able to watch this. Um, Andy Olsen. So yeah, that's that's the usual thing. You get a real world project at the end of a series. So yeah, really good. Really recommend that. Andy Olsen was programming. I think he's written a book as well. I don't know, but yeah. Right. So let's talk about neovim. I've been using neovim. I built it from scratch because I needed version 9 to enable me to use Rust Analyzer. So I built it from scratch I used Clang. I've talked about that in another video, but I had to compile it using Clang for the makefile to work. Um, and here is my init.vim file. So I think often people will just gloss over things, and the bit that you really wanted to get the information on, they just click on the next window, and before you know it, they've skipped past it already. So init.vim, these after what 5 6 weeks, these are my list of plugins. Um, I'm not going to talk about all of them because it would probably bore you, but let's talk about. So that's the theme. It's probably the thing that that's probably the most frustrating thing if you spend weeks writing some code and then people watch your video and all they say, leave a comment and say what theme are you using. I think that's probably one. Um, Rainbow parentheses, really useful, unbelievably useful because yeah, I would say the parentheses, especially when you scroll down and you've got a really big chunk of code and you've got many sets pairs of brackets inside each other, nested. Um, yeah, Rust tools. Yeah, um, telescope, rainbow. I'm not going to talk about those. Right, so those are there, and you're welcome to reference that. So, right, I'm going to move on. This is the good bit as far as I'm concerned, because what I've been able to do is set up a workflow so that Control S saves my code, whether I'm in insert or normal mode. And then to compile my code is Control B. Um, the other thing is print. So this is specific for Rust. So if I do Shift and Tab, it inserts this print ln exclamation mark parentheses with all that. So I think coming from like Python, that's one of the most annoying things. Is it you can't just do print parentheses and put whatever you want in it. You've got to use this syntax. So rather than type all that each time, just Shift and Tab, and then let me show you what I mean. So if we open up window, and I've got a shortcut or an alias for RS, and then we do cargo YT1 YT1 ls. I've also installed a custom. It was written in Rust. It's like a version of ls, but written in Rust. It's got some extra bells and whistles, which that's why I've got the colors there. NV space tab. Oh, I don't want that. Sorry. CD S tab. CD M tab. Oh, sorry. Right, nvm tab. There we go. Right. So if we, you just see Rust Analyzer loaded there. How quick was that compared to loading VS Code extensions? Unbelievable. So yeah, print world. So if I do Shift O, so that's just putting cursor above that line because I use Shift to make it capital. So like went above. So now I'm going to press Shift and Tab. There we go. Let's just drop that in, and then obviously if I had a variable X, then that would go in there. So let's hopefully that's big enough. Let me just make that one bit one times bigger. So let's just go full screen as well. And my favorite thing to do is do this. So we've got full screen now. And yeah, if you want to install a plugin, sorry, what's that going on there? So I've set up custom escape keys as well. So if you use HJKL, then KJ takes me out is actually the escape. You might have seen that in the key maps. Plug, install. Those are all the plugins. So what you see there are the plugins which were on my GitHub gist, which was all right there. So these here, 2 down to 16, are what you will see. Yeah, they look a bit more user friendly here rather than yeah. For instance, you've got nvim tree sitter / tree sitter, and then you've got do, and then you've got ts update. So here looks a bit more human friendly. Right, and you can see that was updated in 0.1 seconds, so it's quick. You come out of that. Now, let me just quickly show you the keyboard shortcuts for controls. So Control S, just save. So even if I was in insert mode, Control S takes me out of insert mode back to normal mode, and say it does save. So then once I've done that, if I want to compile, Control B, there we go. And I've got it to display on the left-hand side. So it's just the pane split, and then it shows code on the left. And as soon as I do Shift ZZ, closes it. So let's just go back. I'll show you the shortcuts. Um, there we go. Back to that. I'm no longer using F3. I was using F3, but that was quite a big jump on the keyboard, especially if your fingers are on the home keys. So you can see do a vertical split. That there is the escape character because you want to put in the pipe next. So basically, if you were doing this manually, you would do vertical split, then you would do terminal and then cargo run and then quiet. So if we go back, if you can see here in the bottom. So if what I've done by doing control this, let me do that. Right, so by doing control B, you can see it's actually done that command. So it would actually be the same as typing. Not quiet. Sorry, you get the idea. So that's my quick overview of how I've been learning Rust and gradually adding to my nvim config file. And obviously, to change nvim config, you would do just out of habit. I always edit it with vim because I don't know. It's just it's just a habit, but I just think it's just whenever I edit my whenever I edit my Vim config, I just want my nvim config. I want to be doing it whilst not in Vim, if that makes sense. And then init vim. Okay. So that file there is the actual file where you add. So if you see a plugin that you like, just just Control O, and then you just do Control Shift V just to paste in whichever. And obviously those are all displayed on GitHub or Stack Overflow or whatever, and it's typically the name of the person who wrote the code followed by the name of the plugin. For instance, Simrat39, that's tools. Pat Stockwell, Vim. Okay. Sometimes it's not. I mean, there it's the actual name of the project, so to speak, but that's because the name of the project is the name of the GitHub account, I would imagine. So just escape out of that, quit out of that. Sorry. Right, so there we go. That's a quick overview of how I've got stuff set up. No doubt in a month or two, this video will look will look quite different, but obviously you just build things up as you go along. So I think probably already I could maybe get rid of some of those plugins. But yeah, Lua, I've tried to avoid Lua because, yeah, just quickly, when you try to start using nvim, neovim, you'll see you've got the lazy vim and so on and so on. But to be honest, it's almost harder because you have to learn their syntax and learn. Then you have to see their splash screens, and you have to use Lua and so on and so on. It's almost easier not to use those. I know that as long as you can compile Vim from source so that you've got version 9 or 10, um, and then just go to your .config directory and go to neovim, and then you just edit your init.vim. So, and again, if you wanted to, you could set up an alias in your bash rc or your zshrc file to take you straight to your vim init.vim file. So it's all about shortcuts, really. The more shortcuts, and it's so specific to you as well. So, and the good thing is, unless you were on a production server where you have to use the standard keys, then wherever you go, you can just download your gist from GitHub, and you can edit it. And if your laptop blows up, you get another one, and then you just you put these 60 lines on, and then you're back how you were. So there's no, you know, and there's no nagging from like you get from VS Code to update. Yeah, great. There's some new feature or bells and whistles, but do you really need them? Probably not. And I'm not going to rant about VS Code. You either use it or you don't. But um, I watch people like John Genset, and I think, well, there's a reason why he uses Vim or nvim. So thank you for watching, and I'll probably be back to doing normal sort of quick 5-minute tutorials for the foreseeable. If there's any topics you'd like me to kind of cover, I'd like to think that this channel shows a bit more realistic, a more realistic approach to learning. I haven't had years of coding in JavaScript, for instance, or years of coding in C++. So I'd like to think these videos are more realistic. They show you the struggle is real, man. So thanks for watching. I'll see you again.